gonna go ahead and share my screen. So we get it. Oh, wait. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. That's fun.
Maybe not there with body.
How does he like? How do we have? You know, like how do you get? Yeah. Yeah. Right. No problem. But like the one thing when I was yeah. Yeah. Like all those.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the village board meeting to order. Please silence all cell phones and refrain from using them during the meeting and look for an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'd like to approve it, but can you just for efficiency, if anyone wants to do that, where are we? I'm looking here. 6A. Yeah, 6A. Could we move her up to 5A or 5,
yep.
and then just if she wants to go, she can.
Jesse, do you accept that friendly?
I accept that.
Okay.
I will second it.
Can we make that permanent?
Yeah, we certainly can.
No, I haven't been because I like the speaker and know what's going on, so.
Well, if you have something that you don't feel well.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we'll move you there, and then if you decide it's not something.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Public appearances and citizen comments. No one here, so we'll move on to approval of the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, you want to make any comment about July financial part?
No,
Okay.
it got you all.
Yeah.
It's in your email.
Okay,
Yeah.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, new business. Item 5A, consideration discussion library project update. Amy.
We're still moving along ahead of schedule. Lots of things happening every week. Installation and drywall. Installation is almost complete. Drywall will be complete by December 1st. MEPs are going in. Sidewalks around back are finished. Asphalt was done on 5th and Railroad, so that's good. Yeah, but just smooth. So very thankful to CG Schmidt.
And windows you had mentioned?
Windows, they should be out for delivery November 11th, arrive at the site, they'll assemble them at the site, and they should be in by December 1st.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy. Okay, item B, public hearing and consideration discussion of 2026 budget. We need a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion to open public hearing for the 2026 budget. 2026 budget.
Second.
You roll call on that.
I'll do it just for good measure. Becca? Yep. Jesse?
Yep.
Peggy?
Yep.
John?
Yep.
Sarah? Larry?
Yes.
Roger?
Yep. Okay.
All right. I'm gonna finish my note here. Next time this will be Amy doing this. Okay. So obviously we don't have anybody here from the public, but I do have a presentation prepared of the 2026 budget. This is a 130-page document that after the budget is approved at the next village board meeting will be available online. All of our budgets actually, all of our adopted budgets, and all of our audit reports are available on the New Village website. So this is obviously a draft because it hasn't been officially approved yet, but we and staff feel pretty good about where this is at. I'm not going to go through every single slide because we keep here all night, but just to give everybody a little bit of the lay of the land, the first handful of pages is really just talking about the document, table of contents. This is all hyperlinked, so you can jump right to the section that you choose to go. I introduced the budget. I talk about some of the maybe bigger things that happened in 25 and I look forward to in 2026. One thing that, increased our numbers quite a bit in one of our funds in the library fund actually was that grant. So the 2025 numbers to 2026 in terms of budget look awful different because we added $4.25 million grant. So just some of those notes are included in here, some of the things we've done this year. It talks about what the funds are, what they serve. One point that I did want to point out to you all is the tax levy and the expenditure restraint. We've talked during this budget session about our net new construction number and what that means for us and how that impacts us. That net new construction number also plays into what's called expenditure restraint. And expenditure restraint are grant funds that come with our share revenue from the state. And expenditure restraint is basically grant funds given to municipalities that do not raise expenses within a certain percentage point. But a large factor in that percentage point is net new construction. So if you do not grow, you have a very small percentage point, and it's nearly impossible to stay within it. So for 2026, we will get the expenditure restraint payment, because those numbers came off of 25. We will not get the expenditure restraint payment in 2027. Our percentage increase was 2.7%, and we're floating right around 8%. Just before anybody jumps to any conclusions, even if we would not have had the change in emergency medical service costs, we still would not have qualified for expenditure restraint. We still would have had to cut an additional $52,000 out of the general fund. And as you all know very well from reviewing this, our general fund is bare bones as it is. So cutting another $52,000 would be quite the task. I, of course, had numerous conversations with our financial consultants at Ellers, who weren't shocked at this at all. They said this is very common across the state, especially in communities that are making progressive changes, growing, but maybe not at the rate that's reflected in ERP. So she wasn't concerned at all. We have a really healthy surplus, so this will be a one-year blip. The good thing is we'll be eligible again in 2028, and because our budget amount is up, it'll increase that percentage too. So just something I wanted to point out that we haven't talked about before. Any questions on the ERP?
Yeah, that doesn't do anything to bond rating or any of that.
No, but it's truly just grant funds that the state gives. These first few pages also talk about some of the funds and aids that we get, transportation aid, what our utility funds are, and what they do with the money in those funds. Overall, 2025 was a good year. We're going to see a surplus, which is exciting. And 2026 is set up to be another good budget year. You know, we had some expense increases, but because of our operational efficiency and strong financial standing, we were able to handle those pretty well. The rest of these first few pages talk about some background of New Glarus, which is really interesting if you're new to the community, especially. We talk about village personnel. This has not changed in terms of staffing for 26, but one thing that I will point out is our health insurance premiums increased by almost 7% again for next year, and dental insurance premiums increased by 7%. The village pays 83.385% of employees' health care this next year. That was that one-year blip because the prices were so low for the employee. We expect that to go back up to 88% in 2027. But I think the important picture to paint here is that the village does take really good care of their employees via benefits. We got no operational levy increase because of the negative net new construction number this year, but yet we still were able to give a 3.5% cost of living adjustment to all employees that were eligible, and we still cover full dental premiums, and their health insurance deductible, their health insurance premium is not going up. I think it's going up a couple dollars a month next year. So we've really been able to keep that stable, which is exciting. The village org chart, which I think we're all familiar with, but it's good to remind ourselves once in a while. New Glarus residents, of course, at the top, elected village board. The village board is over the village administrator, and then the village administrator oversees the multiple departments. The library board works in conjunction with the village board, and has its own kind of org chart off to the side there. Just a reminder on how we got here, our budget timeline. This all started back in May. We approved this timeline, and I started working on the budget, and now we're here in November. We hit all of our marks, even being short-staffed, which is pretty awesome. We weren't delayed on anything, which, hallelujah. There's two big differences, I think, when you're looking at a municipal budget to understand. It's operational and capital. And that also goes for levy too. There's really kind of two kinds of levies. There's operational levy, and then there's debt service levy. Your debt service levy, that's at 75% of the statutory limit that we self-impose. We are well underneath that. The operational levy is where that net new construction number comes into play. So if you don't have a good net new construction number, you're not going to see an increase in that levy. Because ours was negative, we don't see a decrease, but we just see no increase at all, which is really tricky when you're dealing with inflation, increased wage and benefits, et cetera. Just talking about, again, what the funds are, descriptions of the funds, and then it really gets into the meat and bones of the budget. It breaks up every single fund, gives a little background. The general fund we spend a lot of time on because that encompasses so many of our departments, but it breaks out all the funds all the way through utility as well. A lot of our numbers this year are looking very similar to last year. Taxes make up 53% of our revenues, which is almost always going to be the case in municipalities, unless you have a really special circumstance. We get intergovernmental revenue, public charges for service, licensing permits, etc. I worked with Ellers this year to really shore up some of those numbers. I think we talked about this the last time, but the interest number was something we talked about, increasing in years past, and we've always been nervous to do so. Kayla Ellers felt really comfortable increasing that up. We bumped it up to $110,000, which is still about $100,000 less than what we make in interest this year. So it's still very conservative, but that allowed us a big jump in our revenue. So in this budget document, and if you have time and want to look at this after the budget is approved at the next meeting, it's online. It breaks up every single section. So all of the general fund revenues are here, and then all of the general fund expenditures are next. Once again, our percentages look very similar. One thing to note with public safety that I think sometimes is forgotten is public safety isn't just the police department, it's the police department, fire, and EMS. Breaks out personnel and operational expenses, and that at the bottom of this is where we'll see that about 8% increase in expenses. Here. In terms of the general fund, the only other thing that I would like direction from the board on tonight, that I don't need a motion, but just some verbal direction. I talked to Kayla Ellers again about the abated debt. And if you remember from our last conversation, we were using a little bit of abated debt to help offset the EMS increase. And I got good news from our auditor that we had been under budgeting our pilot, the utility pilot, which is great news. She let me know early this week. That put us in a position that we could take out the abated debt and use that $50,000 of surplus to cover that tax impact, so they wouldn't see any impact from the abated debt. Or we could keep the $30,000 of abated debt in there because we have well over that capacity, and then decrease our surplus. I had originally taken out the abated debt and left the surplus, but after talking with Ellers and talking through it, she thought, it really makes sense to keep that $30,000 of abated debt because there is going to be a tax impact. And if you are using surplus this year, what's your plan for next year? What's your plan after that, and after that, and after that? And I know we talked about how in 2028 we will see a little bit of a windfall, if you will, in terms of tax levy. But I also feel like we've had numerous conversations about that money, and it's being spent, 5 different ways already. So I don't want to keep putting our eggs all in that basket. That 2028 will be the year. So she and I talked it through, and so I actually have it presented in here where we are keeping the abated debt in. So it's about $29,000 of abated debt. The tax impact per resident is extremely minimal. I think it's less than $10 a year to take that out versus keep it in. So it's really just something, there's no right answer and there's no wrong answer. It's really something that I would like the board's direction on which way you'd like to go. I'll let you guys kind of think about it, and we can talk about it when we come out of the public hearing, but I kind of wanted to give you some time to think
Tell me
about that.
a little bit about the surplus.
Yeah.
No, not the surplus, the
Abated debt.
budgeting. How did that?
Yeah. So we had the pilot budgeted about $30,000 less than it needed to be, and that was based on a number that was given to us from the auditors in the past. And they got back to me and said, hey, we just noticed in your budget that you have this under budgeted by about $30,000, which.
But wouldn't they have noticed this?
Yeah, so it gets corrected every year during the audit entry,
Oh, I see.
and that's how all this came up. I had emailed them about one, I was looking back at them, and I said, hey, and she's like, oh yeah, you can increase your budget next year. I don't know if she thought we were doing that to be extra conservative, I'm not really sure. Yeah, it gets shored up every year in the audit, so it's not like we weren't getting the money we were supposed to be getting, it just wasn't budgeted for the
So if
exact
we
amount.
use that, then we wouldn't have to have any duties?
Well, we're gonna have the pilot in there regardless. So our choices are either use $29,000 of abated debt, and less surplus. So right now, this is presented with the $29,000 of abated debt. And then the surplus is at the bottom here. Surplus funds applied, we're only using $18,000. Or we increase this back up to $50,000 and don't use the $29,000 of abated debt. Don't use the $29,000 of abated debt. So what that would be doing is surplus would be taking that expense hit, which is okay in the short term, but we talk about this a lot about how you never want to fund ongoing expenses with surplus.
Right.
And that's really where Ellers was coming in, and I think that's a sign of a good financial advisor, right? Like she's like, hey, but she said there's no right or wrong way. It's just, are you gonna deal with that impact now, or are you gonna deal with it next year or the year? You know, it's
So the real question is, are we gonna deal with it now or next year?
or potentially in 2020. I mean, we have extremely healthy surplus funds, and we have abated debt capacity, but that isn't our long-term solution, and we're set up financially for that not to have to be our long-term solution.
I think personally, I don't know what you all think, but I would rather not touch it's not a windfall, but the extra money that would be coming to
The
us.
surplus?
You know, surplus.
Yes.
I would rather leave that because there'll be good uses for that. And just use the surplus that we have. I mean,
Use the
like-
abated debt?
Yeah, and that's just my opinion.
And by using abated debt, you're paying off less debt, correct? Because abated debt is debt you're paying off.
Abated debt in this, abated debt in this situation, the abated debt capacity is what we have. And the reason we have abated debt capacity is because we have about $400,000 of debt that the general fund is not paying. Instead, the TID and the utility funds are paying. We have healthy funds there that they're able to pay their own debt. So we get this abated debt capacity, which is basically the ability to, I think our capacity was over $400,000 for.
I just feel.
I agree with you.
So I don't wanna touch the end of the chin.
I would
Just leave that.
And we can finalize the decision once we come out of the public hearing. I just kind of wanted to plant that seed, you guys can think about it, and then once we come back out, you can give me your final.
Yeah.
I think we're all.
Yeah, maybe should we continue that discussion once we're out of the public hearing? And then, okay, perfect. So just something to think about there. Other than that, the general fund stayed largely the same. Really no surprises there to report at all. Once again, this breaks down the general fund in pretty big detail. I mean, it's going as far as general government, which would be you, to administration, clerk, treasurer, et cetera. So I won't go through every single one, but just know this is in here. No surprises here whatsoever. It all very much stayed the same. A couple things that I do want to point out, and I know I'm going very fast, so stop me if there's something specific that you want to see. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to be respectful of time. And once again, once the budget is fully approved, this will be available on the village website, so you can read all 130 pages front to back.
We've already seen it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But yeah, it breaks down fire, EMS, PD, etc. Thank you. I can't take all the credit. Lauren kind of started this last year, and we built on it last year, and
Oh, wow.
we're really able to pull it together this year. I know, but
She left us.
I have too good a conscience for that, All right, let me get down here. So special revenue funds are basically all the funds that aren't the general fund and are not utility funds. So think waste management, library, chalet, et cetera, as we talked about before, and the one I just want to point out, I know everybody here, but just was on record, the library looks very weird for next year, and it's because of the grant. If you take the grant and the project expenses away, the library looks like it always does. But instead of having, you know, a few hundred thousand, it's like a couple million. Which is a little misleading if you're unaware of what's going on. So you can see that here. There was a $2.5 million increase for next year. So I wish that was just pure revenue, but you know. So that will obviously go away for 2027. And we're working with our auditors to make sure the project's budgeted correctly. We'll have to go through a single audit next year for it, so it'll be highly reviewed. The chalet, just a reminder, we did include the additional staff member as requested by the Friends of the Chalet. They requested that that be covered by admissions, so that's how we have it built into the budget. If for some reason admissions falls short, the fund balance, aka the village, will cover that pay, and we'll know that for 2027 and beyond. But that's the increase, a large part of the increase you see here. 35 is new for us. That's our cemetery fund. We officially took it over this year, and obviously we've been learning a lot about it. So 2026 budget, we don't have a lot of historical data to go off of, but we did have the majority of 2025 to kind of look at and see, you know, where we're headed. This is running on 0 tax dollars for next year, which is really exciting. That's why we set up that endowment. We're able to run, honestly, this is running all in that perpetual care fund for next year that we got from the Smith Church, but eventually the plan is that it will run on that endowment there. And we have had numerous plot sales this year, which is awesome. I think we've had 2 or 3, which batten down the hatches. That's amazing. So.
Great, but
I mean,
we have prices increased for a plot, or did we increase prices for a plot?
We set the prices, back when we took the cemetery over. So they haven't increased since we set them.
Okay, but
Yeah.
definitely they did.
Yeah, the cemetery board, reviewed, and I think it came to the village board. Waste management, nothing crazy to report here. The only operational change is that our compost is going to be going to Purple Cow Organic. It was a much less expensive option, so,
Where are they though? You know where they're located?
outside of Wanakee.
Up in Florence.
Yeah, everything leads to Lauren. Yeah. Something really important to note between Fund 12 and Fund 60. So Fund 60 is our capital budget. That's where you're going to see all the projects that we're doing next year. Fund 12 is all the debt service payments that we're paying out. So they correlate, but it's almost like a year less, if that makes sense. So for next year, in Fund 60, we have. I'll get down to it. This is the debt service loan. This is highly reviewed by Ellers as well, so we know that all of our payments are correct. We'll start paying next year. Some of the new things we have are the principal on the 11th Avenue engineering and the principal on the cemetery, principal interest on the cemetery endowment. Those were 2 of our big borrows this year. We did pay for a few of our projects this year with surplus, so we're not going to see those on Fund 12. Okay, capital projects. Look at that, very fresh picture. So just a reminder, 2026 is a huge year in terms of capital projects for us, and this is how we really had it set up to keep that debt service levy steady. 2025 was kind of a low year for us. This next year is a big borrowing year, so we're doing the 11th Avenue reconstruction. We have the new public library, which of course this $5.7 million number, we are only contributing $500,000. By we, I mean the village is borrowing $500,000. The rest is being paid for by grants and donations. There's a PD squad car replacement, a PD squad car camera line, downtown streetscape, that's being paid completely with cash from the TID 4 fund, police department server replacement, public works garage roof replacement, the fire truck replacement, that was something we had split between 26 and 27. We got word from the fire department that the truck is going to be here in 26, and we were able to work within our self-imposed limits and put that all in 2026.
And streetscape is,
Streetscape is going to be replacing those pavers downtown. Yes, we're going to replace them with a material that's not pavers. And we also hope to put in like tubes in the ground that will hold the stakes for the tents so that they can be covered and flush with the ground when there's not a festival, but then they're not sticking up out of the ground, you know,
So that way
causing
you-
broken toes.
that way you
So,
can-
yeah, exactly. And then last but not least, we have $100,000 set aside for the village hall renovation next year.
I think you said benches too are gonna be.
Yeah, so eventually, yeah, we have money for streetscape, and streetscape is something, I mean, this can be something that we do every 2 years, we do more, but the $200,000 is a good nest egg to get us started, and hopefully at least get the bricks replaced on First Street there, and get those tubes in for the, stakes, so. It gives a recap of what all these projects are, if you're interested, and then it shows all of our capital projects and how they are funded. So anything that's capital is always in Fund 60. I included our CIP too, just so we have that picture going forward. We have a lot of projects coming up, a lot of big street projects coming up. 11th Avenue, Railroad, and then 69, not that we are paying for 69, but we have projects that are going along with 69 in the early 2030s. So, one thing to point out, TID 3 is closing next year. This will be my very first time going through a TID closing, which is exciting. Ellers and MSA are advising us, so we're in very good hands. There is some expenses that are associated with closing a TID. I budgeted a little bit for those, and audit is one of them, and then just closing expenses. So those will come and be paid directly out of the TID. The other new addition this year was our TID 5. So this is TID 4, downtown TID, but TID 5 is our new one. It's pretty lean at this point because it's truly brand new. It was proposed in 23, created in 24, and approved in 25. It's a mixed-use TID, so that means it includes residential, industrial, and commercial property. I think the big one that everybody's kind of looking at right now is that Matterhorn Heights development. Increments from this TID can be used for infrastructure needs, which I think was one of the driving reasons to create this TID, is to attract developers to help with those infrastructure needs. But otherwise, the numbers are not working.
And their Valley Tel 2 is where?
Yeah, Valtel 2 is right here.
Right.
Yeah, so basically surrounding Valtel. I think the plan, initially was to start here and then work their way around.
Where's the water tower?
The water tower's right here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Valley Tel will be
Yep.
on this side.
Yeah, or is it right now? It's right in here. Yeah, so, yep.
We worked on it.
Yeah, so that one, I would say, is very far behind what we're seeing over here. Over here, we've kind of already started the process for Matterhorn. We approved the preliminary plat, so that one is behind on the timeline. But just wanted you to know that this is here. Like I said, it's very lean right now. We're set to get a $15,000 increment next year, which is exciting because it's a brand new TID, so that's great. And then I have $5,000 to transfer to the general fund. The general fund pays for the creation expenses of this TID, and then we'll reimburse the general fund with TID money once an increment is generated. I only did $5,000 because I'm trying to gradually do it. I don't want to drain the TID, reimbursing those expenses. So, and thankfully the general fund is healthy and can afford to float that for a little bit. And then it gets into our enterprise funds, which is all of our utilities. One thing to note that I think made our Fund 40, which is our wastewater treatment plant fund, look a little different this year than last year, is we've included our clean water fund loans and our street project loans that the wastewater treatment plant pays for on the actual budget. It wasn't something that was required in the past, but it's easier for staff to have it all there. So you'll see, obviously, that accounts for like a $700,000 increase that you'll see from here to there. Other than that, the utilities are really pretty standard. Nothing big to report from 2025 to 2026. Obviously, we have some vacancies in our electric utility. We budget, just so everybody is aware, we budget at the top of those pay ranges just to be extra conservative. Anytime I get the silver lining of being short-staffed is you usually save quite a bit of money. So we're hoping to have those filled, but we always budget as though the village is fully staffed. That includes the vacancy in the police department and then the vacancy in the electric utility. Obviously, Amy is filling the clerk vacancy, hallelujah. So we'll just have the 3 vacancies to fill going forward. And then at the end of the budget presentation is the appendix. It just talks about some of the different verbs and nouns that are used in the presentation. Do you have any questions before we go on to the public hearing?
When do you have time to do all?
I don't, Larry. No.
Wow.
No, it's,
That's great.
Yeah.
Good work.
thank you.
And you said that did a lot.
Yeah, so that's, Yeah, Beth Heller is our utility office manager, and she really does the day-to-day work on the utility budget. And then usually the clerk treasurer does the, the day-to-day detail work on the rest of the budget, and the administrators really the oversight. So that's how it'll be this next year. Yeah. Let's stop sharing then.
Need a motion, you want to come out of the public hearing.
So,
Okay, so the only direction I need from the board, and I don't need it in the,
Roll
sorry, Becca, Jesse, Peggy, John, Sarah, Larry,
Yep.
Roger.
call. Now,
The only direction I need from the board, and I don't need it in a motion, is whether you want to use the abated debt or use.
Abated debt.
Okay. So you'll see that reflected in the final budget, resolution that comes to you at the next meeting.
good job.
Yeah.
that's all you needed?
Yep.
Move on.
Yep.
Okay. Item C, consideration of special resolution 2519, designated public depository authorizing withdrawal of village money effective 1/1/26.
This is a yearly resolution that we do, and it basically just explains who is allowed to withdraw monies, who has access, et cetera.
I'll go ahead and approve this.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item D, consideration of special resolution 2520 of treasury bond.
This is another yearly resolution that allows Green County to collect our taxes and sign our checks for us.
Move to approve resolution R 25-20.
What did you say about signing checks?
Well, just if the checks are made out to the village of New Glarus for taxes, it allows Green County to process them.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, we have motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item E, consideration of special resolution 2521 to establish wages for full-time employees for January 1, 2026 to December 31, 2026.
Basically, all these resolutions are yearly ones. This one's the full-time wages. There's a couple of wage notes on there. But otherwise, everything is standard.
And that's the 3.5%.
The police officer one, it's not 10 years, it's 12 years.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Jeff.
Move to approve resolution R 25-21.
Okay.
With the 10 to 12 year change.
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff. Is
Okay.
it second? I'm sorry.
That's on here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item F, consideration of special resolution 2522 establishing wages for part-time employees for January 1, 2026 to December 31st, 2026.
Another yearly one for part-time employees, nothing out of the normal to report here.
I move to approve resolution R 2522.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item G, consideration of special resolution 2522 setting 2026 stormwater utility equivalent runoff unit, ERU.
Last but not least, this is the other one we approve every year that establishes a stormwater fee. We do this in conjunction with Mark Schubach at Strand, who's our stormwater engineer. It increases to $12.97.
We approve resolution R 2522.
Second.
You told how much it went up last year.
I think it was in the high 11s last year. And this in 2025 it was 12.21.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We got motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item H, consideration of special PD roof replacement.
So this is one, probably a formality, but I wanted to be very transparent with it. The final bill for the PD roof replacement came in at $75,630. The board recently approved to go up to $75,000. The reason for the 630 gap was it was listed, the original bid was listed on the CIP at $58,000. It was actually $58,630. So that's what it is. So I'm looking for an approval to go up to $75,630 in surplus funds to cover that expense.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Item I, consideration, discussion, and Blair's Hotel Development Agreement Amendments, page 18.
Yeah, so the developer team for the New Glarus Hotel reached out to me about a month ago about the development agreement, and they were just concerned because it had an initial completion date that they will not be able to meet because of the delay that they had, and they wanted to make sure that the agreement was still good. I did talk to MSA and Hellers on the financial side, and then our attorney who drafted the amendment. He said he does these all the time, no big deal. So this really just extends that completion date to the end of next year, which I believe they intend on opening before Oktoberfest of 2026. So, yeah, there's no money changes. It's still $1 million. Nothing has changed. The only change was the substantial completion date.
Motion to approve New Glarus Hotel Development Agreement.
Second.
They have taken out a building permit, correct, so they're working on it?
Yep. Mr. Bachman stopped in last week and met with Scott.
Yep.
He said within the next month we should be seeing substantial construction progress.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item J, consideration discussion according 25-09 to amend section 220-9 of the municipal code of the village of New Glarus, dog park.
So this is one to amend the ordinance on the dog park. We heard from New Glarus Cares and Shelley Johnson about removing that all dogs must be spayed or neutered to use the park. I ran this by Chief Sturtevant. He was fine with it. I also did some research on parks around us. It's kind of hit or miss. Some parks have rules either like this or rules that if your female dog is in heat, she is not allowed to come. I just took it out. So
Who monitors that?
I don't know. So
Hopefully the owner will come.
yeah. So I felt comfortable taking it out.
So have they got rules signs up there yet?
Not yet because they wanted to address this and then
Are gonna be by Saturday?
I doubt it. Yep. Just so everybody knows, the official ribbon cutting for the dog park is Saturday at 11 a.m. This coming weekend will be free from the time of the ribbon cutting through the end of the day. Sunday will be free for folks to use and check out and preview. Starting Monday, they will need a dog park pass. They're available on the New Glarus website or in person if you don't want to pay the transaction fee online. You can come to the clerk's office during normal business hours and purchase a dog park pass. You also have to have your dog registered with the municipality that you reside.
And to be clear, anybody can come and get a pass.
Yep, there's no resident versus non-resident fee for this, and the reason for that is because there's no tax levy impact. So I know there's been questions about the fees. This is the first time the village has ever ran a dog park. We really need, it's our goal to make sure this does not end up in the tax levy, so we need to ensure that we're recouping our costs. If there's an opportunity to lower fees in the future, we certainly can look at that. But for this year, we felt comfortable, kind of setting them where they're at and seeing how it goes.
So did you have a motion on this yet? Oh, okay.
I was just curious, we're gonna say, motion to amend section 2020-9 of the,
You can amend it, or you can say just a motion to approve ordinance 2509.
motion to approve ordinance 2509.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Has everybody read this yet? There's a really interesting article in here about EMS. So read it.
Okay.
Very interesting. The future of volunteer EMS.
And if you don't get the magazine hard copy, you can go on the League of Wisconsin Municipalities website and view it there. I also can provide a hard copy of the picture yet. Or I can make copies and send it out to you. or
I
scan it
just
and
thought
send
it
it out.
was interesting, that these were going through what we're going through, that how this would come up right now. Anything else on the board? Yep, Amy, anything? Okay. We are adjourned.